Hey, what's up everybody? It's the Hyphenate here, and today I'm going to show you guys how to do time lapses with Sony Alpha cameras. Today I'm going to show you guys with the Sony a7S III, though this will work with any of the Sony cameras that have interval shooting mode. Not all Sony Alpha cameras have interval shooting mode. Only the Sony a6400 and newer cameras have that mode built in. Here is a short time lapse that I did in downtown Los Angeles. Now at the end of this video, I'm going to show you the exact settings that I used for that time lapse. But right now, let's go into the menu system and let me show you how to actually set up interval shooting mode. Now, if you're not using the Sony a7S III, then you probably have a different menu system. So I'm not sure exactly where to find it, but just locate interval shooting mode. So you're going to want to make sure that you're in a photo mode. I personally like to shoot in manual, but this will work in any of the other photo modes. Now, ideally, you're going to want your photo settings set before going into the interval shoot function menu. So first, change your ISO, your f-stop, your aperture, your shutter speed, white balance, and manual focus or autofocus, whatever you want. Make sure you set that up for the scene first. Now, all those settings are going to vary depending on what you're shooting and in what type of situation. Now, the one thing that I highly recommend is making sure that your shutter speed is at 1/50th of a second or slower. If you want more motion blur with things that are moving in your time lapse, like cars or people walking, then set it slower. And if your shot is coming out too bright, you can lower your f-stop, and you can also use a variable ND filter to cut down some light. Now let's go into the menu. On the Sony a7S III, we're gonna go to the second page, which is shooting, and then we're gonna go to the 5th tab, which is drive mode. Then from there, we're gonna go to interval shoot function. Again, if you don't have the Sony a7S III, you might have a different menu system, so you'll have to look for interval shoot function on a different page or tab. Here it is on the a7S III, so let's go into that. Now, interval shooting, you want that on. Shooting start time is essentially a timer, so whatever you set here is gonna be the time it takes before the first shot gets taken. And that essentially starts your time lapse. Shooting interval is the amount of time between each shot taken. So here with 5 seconds, that says that once the first photo is taken, it's gonna wait 5 seconds and take another photo. After that photo is taken, then another 5 seconds. Now, if you have a long exposure, a slow shutter speed, let's say, for example, you had a 15-second shutter speed. You would take that first photo, that would take 15 seconds. At the end of that, once that photo's taken, and after those 5 seconds, another photo would start to be taken, and that would take another 15 seconds. After those 15 seconds, another 5-second space, then etc., etc., etc. Number of shots. Now here you can put as many as you want. 9,999 is pretty much the maximum. Now personally, I normally leave it at that, and I manually stop the time lapse by pressing in the shutter button on the camera. But if you know the number of shots specifically you want taken, then you can set it here. AE tracking sensitivity for auto exposure tracking sensitivity. You can set that to whatever you want. If you want it to change its exposure with different lighting situations, then make that adjustment. But since I shoot manual, I don't really use that. However, this can come in handy if you're doing day to night time lapses. Shutter type in interval, you can choose between electronic or mechanical shutter. Your electronic shutter will actually shoot silent. And personally, that's normally what I use. Shoot interval priority can be set to off or on. Currently, it's grayed out and off because I shoot in manual. This works in program auto or aperture priority. So it sets whether or not to automatically adjust the shutter speed, prioritizing shooting intervals when the exposure mode is in program auto or aperture priority. Again, if you shoot in manual, this will not be available to you. And that's pretty much how simple it is to set up interval shoot mode on Sony Alpha cameras. Now, one quick tip that I would like to recommend is to make sure that you actually add the interval shoot function into your favorites menu. So I have it set on my second menu right on top so I can get to that quickly. And I also set a custom button on the function menu. So I have interval shooting on or off. So here I can toggle on or off, and then I can go into the menu, into my favorites, and go into the interval shoot function menu. So then I can actually make the adjustments of the time lapse here. Time lapses are things you normally want to do when things are moving, but I'm actually in my studio right now and there's nothing moving. But I'm gonna show you really quick. Once everything's ready, all you have to do is press the shutter button, and now your time lapse will start. So here you see a 10-second timer. It's already acquired the focus once I press the shutter, and I had the focus area set to the face of the object. And now every 5 seconds, it's gonna take another photo. And then if I wanna stop it, just press the shutter button, boom, shooting ended. So now let me go over the settings that I used for that time lapse that I showed you guys in the beginning of this video. I used the Sony FE 55mm Zeiss f1.8 lens. My shutter speed was 1/8 of a second. My ISO was set to 40. Aperture was set to f22. I set the focus to manual and I focused on the far buildings in the skyline. Now in the interval shoot function, my interval shooting was on. Shooting start time 10 seconds, so that gave me a 10-second timer to walk away from the camera to not cause any excessive vibrations on the tripod. My shooting interval was 5 seconds. Number of shots, I had it set to infinite. I stopped it manually by pressing the shutter button. AE tracking sensitivity to mid. Shutter type in interval, I used electronic shutter. Shoot interval priority was off automatically because we were in manual. So there you guys have it. That's how you do a time lapse with Sony Alpha cameras. If you're interested in getting any of the gear that I use, I have links in the description where you can purchase them from either B&H Photo or Amazon. It doesn't change the price that you get it at, but it does help this channel. Please make sure to drop a like on this video, drop a comment below if you have any questions, and please make sure to subscribe. I have a lot more videos coming soon. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.